it's not crazy. It seems crazy when you first start. It seems insurmountable to get leads and like get your first clients. And I was so worried about that. Like number one fear, probably everybody's number one fear. How am I gonna get clients? But it seems to happen pretty naturally once you're into it. Start so much earlier. I really wish I would have. Like it's very worth it. And it's not hard. It's really not hard. That's the biggest thing is like, I thought it was so difficult. And that was my biggest thing is I don't get courses unless I can commit to them, but it's not hard. You make it very easy.
If you don't mind sharing a little bit about, where you're at as far as how many clients you have, prospective clients, what your bandwidth, kind of what you want a day in the life to look like for you, and how many clients you expect to sort of have in order to design the career you want.
Yeah, so I signed my first contract last week, which was very exciting. It was a 10-hour project, roughly 10 hours for the next 6 weeks, so 10 hours a week, around like 60 hours total. So that really kicked off as my first client. A second one I have prospectively is a 15 to 20 an hour for 4 to 6 months, so it's a longer project. I had a couple former employers or people I've worked with in the past that I was considering working with, and I haven't like gauged a lot of interest. One is a for sure no now, and one is maybe 50% of the way there, so that's kind of my original pipeline. And then I had one more, Marketing Cloud one. It had some marketing. I think you remember I probably posted that one in there. And I just didn't get a good vibe from the clients, so that one I ended up not going with.
Summarizing that, so basically you had right up front 5 prospective clients. You've got an absolute no for whatever reason from one of them. You've got one that you weren't feeling the best vibes about. And I think that's like, if anyone's listening, like when you're freelancing or doing anything, like feel free to turn clients down. Like you want to work with clients you want to work with. You've got one locked in and that's got you at like 10 hours a week. And then you've got another one that's looking really secure. That's like 15 to 25 hours a week, I think you said.
Yeah, 15 to 20. So
15 to 20. So you're already at like 25 to 30 hours a week as far as your current clients go. Do you want to do much more than that as far as the workload you want to have for your personal, I'd say, career design?
I don't think so, partially because I like to volunteer for a couple places. So I like to leave volunteer hours open. I have a nonprofit that I'm helping and I'm just onboarding a second one. So I want to have time to like devote to causes I really care about. So I think the 30 hours a week is going to be the sweet spot for me and allow me to do a little more travel and just pursue home things. Like I want to start my garden a little more. And there's so many things I've been putting off. And so, yeah, I don't think I'll probably do much more than that. And really, when you start calculating it, you realize that's really sufficient for your needs. It's kind of crazy. Like when I first started freelancing, I was thinking about, I have to get this like massive amount of clients. And like you said, you only need 2 to 3 for yourself. So really, like if you're one person and you're not looking to scale, it's not crazy. It seems crazy when you first start. It seems insurmountable to get leads and like get your first clients. And I was so worried about that. Like number one fear, probably everybody's number one fear. How am I gonna get clients? But it seems to happen pretty naturally once you're into it.
We have sort of this strategy we use that we were talking about in the boot camp around keeping costs low until we get to a point where we know we have income. Before landing your first client, how much did you need to spend in order to get your company going? And then if you'll sort of answer the same question for like that transition period when you actually got your first client, what additional, like how much additionally did you need to spend to just formalize things, to finalize that contract and that kind of thing?
Yeah, okay. So before I got a client, I spent absolutely nothing. And my strategy for that is like, I tend to be really frugal and I'm really into like fire movement and saving a lot of money. And I was like, I am not spending a penny until I know I'm going to get a return on it. So 0 before I got a client. When I did get a client, it was $130 for the LLC, and that was filing directly through the state. And then like your employer identification number is free. And then really the only other expense for me was the domain and Google hosting, which I believe I got for $45 for a year. So like under $200, which I'm really thrilled about. I'm using Zoho for bookkeeping, which is free for like small businesses. And then I have a free website on Card, which I mean, it's not perfect, but it definitely works. I've already gotten some positive feedback from people I've talked to, like, oh yeah, we looked at your website, it's really nice. And I was like, oh, I thought it wasn't that great, but thank you. So yeah, like it's really not that expensive, really cheap.
I think that's like probably one of the biggest misconceptions about again, starting a business, right? We talked about that, and it's that like, what are all the, I don't know what I don't know. So what are all these hidden costs that are going to go into it? And I think most people expect, a few $1,000s at a minimum to kind of get off the ground. Yeah. They don't really, you can ask them where they think that money goes, and they can't really tell you. It's just sort of this built-in thought we have that it's going to cost thousands of dollars. Yep, just lots of money to get started.
Lots of money. Yeah.
And that's it. And you get into it. And to your point, if you never land a client, then you can remain at $0 or definitely less than $100. Yeah. And once you land a client, you might be up to a few $100s, but it's all covered by the first client. So you're good to go.
It is. And potentially extra covered. So when you open a business account, there's some that have like bonuses. Like mine, if I hit spend on it, I'll get a $300 bonus, which more than pays for starting the business up. And you have access to other credit card points where you have like business options for business credit cards. So it kind of pays for itself either way, whether it's the first client paying for it or your bank bonus, like so many ways that it just works itself out.
It pays for itself. Talking a little bit about the boot camp now and kind of zooming out of your precise story, it's you move into this freelance boot camp. How long are we talking about here? That's another big question I get. From the day you decide, okay, I'm all in on this, I'm going to join. Obviously, I'm going to take it seriously because I decided to join this program. How long are we talking from joining the program, going through the boot camp, like getting your first lead, let's say serious lead, not just some random person. Yep. And then landing a client? Like how long does that process take?
I would say like 2 to 3 months. So, and kind of breaking that down. So the first couple weeks, like I got the program and I don't think I jumped into it right away. Like I got it. I had like a lot of work projects I was working on. I think a couple certifications too. So I was like working on that stuff and I was like, in 2 weeks, I'll buckle down. So like 2 weeks went by, and then I think the next 4 weeks I really buckled down on that. And that covered like watching all of the videos, getting my homework done. So like writing down all of the places I need to do, my branding strategy, going to the live boot camps, and mostly while I was weeding my garden. So it was really a win-win for me. So yeah, like 4 weeks on that. And then like, I feel like it takes about kind of 4 weeks to get leads converted. And maybe that's just me going really slow because I'm not a fast conversion person. The contract I actually landed was less than a week between, I think it was 2 days from when the time I contacted them to see if like, is there any potential we could work together? And I think 2 days later I had the contract, but I think that's an exceptional rare case of them moving really fast. And the CPQ one, that's where I'm putting like the 2 to 3 months in for that, because that took it's probably going to be 6 weeks from the time I got the lead until it closes. So that's going complete cold lead though. Like didn't know anybody at the company, didn't know them. They actually reached out to me. So I felt like that was a unique like win. I wasn't even like pursuing that company, and I was like, oh wow, like these people are really awesome. I really want to work with them. And then full circle, like weeks later, like talking through details, it just takes time. So you can't really rush it, but definitely I feel like 3 months isn't that long. So to me, like that's the long end of things. And yeah, it seems like an eternity when you're in it, but like 3 months goes by so fast. It's a quarter of a year, flies by.
I think that's great. And I think it's really amazing too, how quickly 3 months goes by, even though, like you said, it can feel like a while you're in it, because it's like all you're focused on and you kind of just want it all to happen by the end of the day or by Friday at least, right?
Yes, the end of the day for me. I'm such an end of the day person. I'm a to-do list person, and like if I get a lead on there, like I'm not happy at the end of the day if I don't have like a solid lead. So it is a patience game.
Yeah, a little bit of patience. And then what's funny is that, at least from my experience, it kind of hits fast forward. After that, you get those first couple of clients and then you're working them, and suddenly 3 more months go by and you've got people knocking on your door, a couple more DMs going on. And suddenly, by the end of 6 or at least 12 months, you're turning clients away, or, you're having a handoff work to somebody, or consider, am I going to take this on and then subcontract and find somebody to work under me? And it's so funny how those first, let's just say like 3 to 6 months can feel like you're establishing yourself, you're learning some little lessons along the way. And then just 12 months in, you suddenly find yourself at a place where you're at capacity and you either need help or you have to start saying no. And I don't think most people realize that that's a reality. It's not just a fun idea, it's a reality.
But even without going super hardcore into it, it's still like leads started coming in and it started working kind of organically, which is crazy because I thought you had to like really buckle down and focus on it. And I'm sure it would happen faster if you did. But for me personally,
isn't that
I did it
interesting?
And it still worked.
That's so cool, because it's like the thing that you think is going to be the hardest thing, you end up sort of like taking a softer approach to it, and it still happens really fast, right?
Right.
I think it just shows how much demand there is, even if we're not in that 2020 to 2022 era of just like crazed tech,
That was crazy.
space. We're still in a space where there's a lot of work to go around if you're networked in and if you're having the right conversations. I think the last thing I'll ask you is, would you mind just like what would you say, I guess, to someone, I imagine you just having like a coffee chat with someone who's interested in freelancing, they heard that you've had some success with it. What advice do you have for those individuals as they sort of decide, am I really going to lean into this, or should I just keep doing what I'm doing?
I think my biggest piece would be to start early. So I was very interested in your freelance course back when it was on a different platform. I can't remember what that platform is. And I like literally him-hawed about it for years. Like not 1 year, not 2. It was like 3 years, which when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so stupid. But I really him-hawed about it. And I wish I would have started earlier, because even in my nonprofit work, like immediately seeing value from those, like the different templates you had were amazing. And so that starts immediately to look professional. And even if you're volunteering, you can use those volunteer like work as different references or like proof that you have experience, and you want to do it in a professional manner. And previously when I volunteered, it wasn't very professional. So even just like getting smart about how you want to do it, like start early, even if you don't have clients now, like it's really not that much money and you get a huge amount of value, even for employers. Say you're still like working full time for an employer. Those like time tracking, value tracking, adding all of like proving your value and showing yourself as a valuable like professional, whether your client is a full-time employer or your client is a freelance person, like different projects here and there, there's so much value in it. So I would say start so much earlier. I really wish I would have. Like it's very worth it. And it's not hard. It's really not hard. That's the biggest thing, is like I thought it was so difficult. And that was my biggest thing, is I don't get courses unless I can commit to them. But it's not hard. You make it very easy. I'm very risk averse as a person, so I was really excited about it, and I love entrepreneurial endeavors. Like before Salesforce, I had my own sewing company, so I love the opportunity to put more business skills into use than just like business analysis and project management and technical skills. And I was also a little bit, skeptical and nervous of any course, but I had a lot of faith in Talent Stacker. So I was like, I know the course creators are super solid, and I know I love their content style. I was like, I really need to commit to this and take the time and work through it. And I was working a lot of overtime and I was really busy at the time. And I decided this is where I want to spend my time and my energy. So once I made that leap, I was just really excited about it. Like, I know I'm going to get a lot of value out of this and I'm going to commit to myself. And that was the big thing when I reached out to you. I was like, okay, I'm doing this and now I've committed. So here we are.
Was there anything like a skill or a mindset shift or anything that occurred for you that stood out to you where you went like, now that this switch is flipped for me, I feel more comfortable, or at least I understand how to go where I'm trying to go?
For sure was the different types of how to do contracts. Like you went over how to do like project-based or time-based or like MSAs. So I think that shift for me was really a professional, kind of feeling more professional of like, I don't know how to structure things and I don't know what I'm doing with legal language. Like I felt very underqualified as far as like writing out, how do you get that client? Like say they want to hire me and I want to work for them. Like, I don't know what to do. So that was a big shift. Like, okay, like now I feel enabled and I have options. Like there's multiple ways to structure this and I feel like a professional. The marketing thing too, I think that was really helpful of like, you don't need to be a crazy big marketer. Like you can just kind of use your authentic style and be you, or at least that's the takeaways I felt, is like really let your brand shine through, like however that is. You had a branding template in there. And that was like a huge shift for me, as I filled that out and I was like, oh, like I'm a company now. Like I know what direction I'm going. So that was really big. And then just the template library, so I went through all of the videos while I was working, just because I'm, a multitasker and I was really busy. So I'd like go through all the videos and I would like bookmark all of the lessons that I had to like save templates and copy them over. So after work, I'd go and like copy them over to my Google Drive. And then at the end of that, I had this whole library. And so between like the marketing strategy and then like the library of templates and having like the different templates to send for like MSAs or, time-based projects, I was like, okay, I'm a real business. Like I started posting content and I thought it was going to be really noticeable right away to my coworkers and like kind of flag me as somebody different. And they started like looking at them and seeing it as really helpful. And it actually like boosted my stats internally and them not even knowing about like I'm wanting to freelance. So that I thought was really interesting as they were like, oh yeah, we're looking up your post to go like check out that query again. Or like, that was really helpful what you posted the other day. And I was like, oh, like in my mind, this is a blaring signal, but it's not to everybody else. So you can really choose your comfort level of coming out, if you will, on what your intentions are.
I love that. Yeah. And I think we talked about that a good bit in the actual like live boot camp that we were part of, because that's a big question a lot of people have, right? It's like, oh, Brad's telling me to go out here and post on LinkedIn, and that's going to be a meaningful part of my marketing strategy or my brand awareness for me. But to your point, that I think that initial thought is always, whatever I post, they're going to know exactly what I'm up to, and that this is supposed to be building credibility for my own business. But just like you pointed out, and I know that everything is like the best laid plans don't always come to fruition. So it's kind of like logically, it seems like they would know, but it's just not the way it goes. It's they see what they want to see because perspective is truth. So when they see what their perception is truth, when they see it, they see you as their employee, and you're posting about this thing that you know a lot about, and they just see you as more valuable, while other people's perception is also truth. If they need help with whatever you're posting about, they see you as someone that they could potentially work with or hire fractionally or freelance with. And so everybody just perceives your post the way they want to based on their reality. And so
they really do.
Yeah, you can put up one post and impress your employer and attract a client at the same time. Getting those 2 to 3 clients is, I think you said something like it's enough, like it suffices for what you need. And before you're in it, it kind of like feels like this thing where you're always going to need all these clients, and you're going to constantly be marketing, selling, and all these things. And then ultimately you get a few clients and you're like, oh, I'm like immediately maxed out for where I want to be. Like I've either got to scale or I've got to agree that this is where I want to be right now. I was going to ask, as far as income replacement, and we can use ballpark numbers, maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing like a ballpark of how much you were getting paid in your full-time role, just a ballpark number, and then a ballpark number of about how much you're charging clients per hour. And then I think if we use those 2 things, we can pretty quickly say, how many billable hours would you need a week to replace your full-time income? So are those numbers you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. I've been I've tried to be very thoughtful at how I look at this, because you can easily, I feel like, exploit the number that you charge hourly and like, oh, if I did this for like 10 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year, it would be X number. So for me, I always take out 16 holidays and then 4 weeks of unpaid vacation. So I like pretty scale down the number I'm actually working with. So I feel like the numbers are pretty legit as far as like, oh, I'm like replacing plus more. In my previous role, I was like, I would say it was around the like 130, 135 like benefits that I was seeing from it. So it really also amazing in 4 years for somebody who also just background here, had no background in tech or like went to any formal schools whatsoever. Like I grew up Amish, was homeschooled, and had no tech training. So I did learn to type 2 years ago, which has been a huge boost to my productivity. For the first 2 years as an admin, I literally made it through like looking at the keys and not knowing how to type. So I feel like anybody can do this. Yeah, if I can do it. I digress back to the billable. I am bidding between like 100 and 125 an hour. So I'm averaging at 110 an hour. And that's how I'm figuring out my work hours.
Yeah. So ballpark in that, like I'm just running like back of the envelope math. It's like if you were getting paid 130 and you're charging 110, then what, I mean, basically you need somewhere between 20 to 26 hours a week to replace that income. And like you said, maybe there's some other nuance to the numbers, but we can go nuance all day. So I would just say ballpark, you're in that range. About 25 hours is what you need to work to replace a full-time income. And you had a great full-time income, right?
You're like, if you wanted to bump your income at any time, like if I'm working 25 hours a week and I want to take a girls trip to Japan with my family and I just want to like pick up another project, I can do that. And I have the flexibility to do that because I have so fewer hours. Like if you're working full time and you pick up freelance work, that's a huge, I feel like, strain on your capacity. So if you do want to get extra money, it's also a huge sacrifice on your end. But the freelancing allows you to get kind of the upside of both, of like you have a steady income and you can get extra project work.